He used to fall asleep on my chest, his hand right over my heart. I raised him alone, held him through fevers, packed his lunches, waited in empty auditoriums. Then one day in court, he pointed at me and said I ruined his life. Not Mom. Not even Donna. Just that woman. And now, every silence between us feels like a sentence I'll never be allowed to finish. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you are watching from, like this video, tap the bell icon, and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the stories again. My name is Donna Spencer, and I am 71 years old. They told me the hearing would start at 9, so I arrived at 8. The courtroom was quiet except for the hum of old fluorescent lights. I took a seat in the second row, behind the defense table. The bench was cold. I tucked my coat tighter around me, even though I was sweating under it. I reached into my purse and pulled out the photograph. Daniel, 6 years old, missing his 2 front teeth, holding up a crayon drawing of us. Just him and me, no dad. He had drawn a sun in the corner. He always added a sun, even when he was sad. The door opened. I looked up. He walked in, wearing a suit that didn't fit quite right, his hair too neatly gelled. Lauren followed, close behind him, whispering something. He didn't look at me. Not once. I stood halfway. Daniel. He turned his head slightly, but his eyes slid past me, like I was just another face. I sat down again. My knees ached. A young man in a badge came over. Are you here for the hearing? I nodded. I'm his mother. He gave a polite, empty smile. Okay, ma'am. Please silence your phone. I didn't bring a phone. I stared at Daniel's back. He used to have a mole on his neck. I wonder if it's still there. There was a time he wouldn't go to sleep unless I rubbed his back in circles. He'd cry if I forgot. Clockwise, Mommy, he used to say. That's how the stars spin. Lauren leaned over and smoothed his collar. He leaned into her hand like it belonged there. I looked back at the photo. Do you remember this? I whispered to no one. A woman sat beside me. Tight curls, red lipstick, fake leather bag. She glanced at the photo in my hands. Your grandson, she asked. My son. Oh. She shifted in her seat. Hope everything works out. She didn't mean it. But I nodded anyway. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Daniel didn't look back. His voice was deeper now. Sharper. My financial distress began after years of emotional instability in my upbringing, he said. My chest tightened. I looked around. Who was he talking about? Inconsistent support, lack of boundaries, manipulative behavior masked as care. No, that couldn't be me. Could it? The words hung in the air like dust. The lawyer nodded along, asking soft questions, letting him talk. He spoke calmly, like he'd rehearsed. Did anyone in your life make you feel controlled? Yes, he said. And then he pointed. Not at the ceiling. Not in the air. At me. That woman ruined my life. I didn't cry. I didn't move. The photo slipped from my lap to the floor, but I didn't reach for it. Lauren folded her arms. Didn't flinch. The judge didn't look at me. No one did. Do you need a break? The woman beside me whispered. I shook my head. I wanted to stand up and say, I'm the one who skipped dinner so he could have lessons. I'm the one who ran 3 buses across town to his school play. I was the one who taught him to hold a fork when he couldn't grip properly. But instead, I just sat there, hands in my lap, listening. The judge called for a recess. Daniel stood and walked out of the room with Lauren. I stayed behind. My knees didn't want to bend anymore. I bent anyway. Picked up the photo. The corner had folded. Clara once told me, children grow up to see you through someone else's words. I thought she was being poetic. Now I understood. I walked slowly toward the back door. The woman with the curls said something, but I didn't hear her. Outside, the sky was overcast. Not dramatic, just gray. Like wet cotton. I stood on the sidewalk. People passed. No one noticed me. Across the street, Lauren was fixing Daniel's tie. She smiled like a wife from a magazine. He let her. He laughed. I hadn't heard that laugh in years. I took the photo and slid it back into my purse. The zipper caught for a second. I didn't force it. Instead, I sat on the courthouse steps, elbows on knees. A pigeon landed nearby, pecked at nothing. I remembered holding Daniel for the first time. The nurse had placed him in my arms and said, "He's a strong one." He grabbed my pinky. Tight. I whispered, "It's just you and me now." He blinked like he understood. I looked down at my hands. They didn't look like they used to. They were mine, but also not. Like someone had taken everything soft and replaced it with paper. A woman pushed a stroller past me. The baby reached out toward the pigeon. She didn't even glance at me. The courtroom door opened again behind me. But I didn't turn around. I just sat there, holding a picture of a boy who used to love me like I was the sun. The first time Lauren visited, she brought me lavender hand cream. "Oh, I saw this and thought of you," she said, smiling like she meant it. "Lavender's my favorite," I told her. "Thank you, sweetheart." She placed it on the windowsill, next to the plant Daniel gave me 2 Mother's Days ago. Daniel kissed her cheek when she sat down. I noticed how she didn't take her coat off. Just sat, hands folded. "So, Lauren," I said, pouring tea, "what are you studying again?" "Communications," she said. "But I want to work in nonprofit outreach. Maybe trauma care." "That's noble," I said. "You must have a big heart." She smiled, but not at me. At Daniel. After they left, I found the hand cream unopened. Still in its wrapper. Still sealed. At first, she came with Daniel. Then she started showing up without him. Always polite. Always bringing something small. Candles, a tin of cookies, once a little cross-stitched towel that said "Bless this mess." "It made me laugh," she said. I laughed too. But when I hung it in the kitchen, something about it made my throat feel tight. On Daniel's birthday, I made his favorite cake, chocolate, no icing. Just like when he was little. I called him twice. No answer. At 6:30, I finally texted Lauren. She replied, "Oh, I thought he told you. We're spending it just the 2 of us this year. Next time, okay?" I sat at the table with the cake untouched. The towel hung above the sink, crooked. Thanksgiving came. I offered to host. Lauren texted back, "We'll do something small here. Daniel said he needs rest. Maybe Christmas." Christmas turned into a card. Then silence. One afternoon, I ran into Lauren at the pharmacy. "Hi," I said too loud. She smiled. "Oh, hi Donna." She said my name like it tasted strange. "You doing okay?" I asked. She touched her belly. "Just tired. You know how it is." I still remember the back pain. I laughed. "You'll forget it all once you hold her." She smiled again, smaller this time. Then she said, "You know, Daniel mentioned, you sometimes call a little too often. He loves you, of course. But maybe give him a bit of breathing room." She picked up her prescription and left before I could answer. I stood by the vitamins, holding a bottle of calcium I didn't need. Too much. Too much. I walked out without buying anything. That night, I deleted his number from speed dial. Just to give him room. When the baby came, I brought a blanket I knitted for weeks. Pale yellow, soft as butter. I knocked. Lauren opened the door. "Oh," she said. "You didn't call." "I didn't want to bother you. She's sleeping right now." "I'll be quiet." She hesitated. Then smiled. "Next time, okay?" I looked past her. The baby swing, the tiny socks on the couch. A lullaby playing softly from somewhere. "I just want to see her for a minute." "I know," she said gently. "But today's not good. She's fussy." I nodded. She closed the door halfway. "I'll text you soon." She didn't. A week later, I tried again. Brought diapers, formula, little booties. Lauren opened the door, but barely. "This really isn't a good time, Donna." "She's my granddaughter." "I understand. But unannounced visits don't work for us." "I brought things." She looked at the bag like it was trash. "I'll leave them here." "Okay," she said. "Thanks." She started to close the door. Then I said, I was there when Daniel broke his arm. He begged for me, not his father. She paused. That was a long time ago. And closed the door the rest of the way. I stood on the porch a full minute holding air. The next day, I texted Daniel, can I come by this week? Just for 10 minutes. No reply. I tried again. I miss her already. Scene. No answer. I stopped by the church to drop off canned goods. Sister Marianne saw me in the hallway. How's your granddaughter? I opened my mouth. Closed it. Oh, she said. Well, you'll spoil her when you finally get the chance. I smiled. Yes, I will. That night, I pulled out the baby blanket. Still folded. Still perfect. I placed it on my lap and stared at the stitches. They looked like tiny cages. The next morning, I saw Lauren had posted a photo on Facebook. The baby in her arms, Daniel smiling beside them. The caption said, Our little family. Just us three. Exactly who we need. I didn't comment. Didn't like it. Didn't cry. I just got up, walked to the sink, and quietly took the towel down. I folded it, pressed it flat, and placed it in the drawer beneath the knives. I don't know who said it. Or why. But it spread fast. She slapped the baby, someone whispered. A neighbor? A mom from the church group? The first time I heard it was from Clara, by the fence. You okay? She asked, clipping her roses. Heard some noise. About your visit last week. I blinked. What noise? She paused. Something about you losing your temper? With the little one. I felt like I'd been slapped. I didn't touch her, I said. She spilled juice on the carpet, that's all. I got a towel. Clara nodded, but she didn't say she believed me. That night, Daniel called. Mom, he said, voice tight. Can we talk? Yes, of course. What's wrong? I got a call, he said. From someone who saw something. At your last visit. What did they say? He went quiet. That you hit her. I stood still. What? Is it true? No, I gasped. Daniel, I would never. Why would anyone say that? He sighed hard. Maybe they misunderstood. I added quickly. She dropped her cup. I bent down too fast. Maybe I startled her. She cried for an hour after you left. She's a baby. Babies cry. Lauren said she was shaking. I clenched the phone. Why didn't Lauren call me? Why didn't she ask me? Because she's scared, Mom. Of me. He lowered his voice. She thinks maybe you're not doing well. Mentally. My whole body went cold. Daniel. I whispered. Are you serious? I don't know what to think. You know me. Do I? He said too fast. Then quieter. I just want to understand. Maybe it's time you talk to someone. I want to talk to you, I said. In person. Not over the phone. Please come by. Please, Daniel. A long pause. Fine, he said. Tomorrow. When the doorbell rang, I opened it with shaking hands. There he was. But not alone. Lauren stood beside him. Hi, she said without warmth. I stepped aside. Come in. Daniel looked around, like he hadn't been there in years. I'd made tea. Set out lemon cookies. The table was too clean. I'd spent the whole night scrubbing it. I made your favorite, I said, pouring. No sugar, he reminded me. I smiled. Still remember. Lauren sat stiffly. Didn't touch her cup. So I began. Let's clear this up. Daniel looked at Lauren. She took over. Donna, she said, voice low and steady. We're not trying to attack you. Good, I said. Because there's nothing to attack. We just want to make sure the baby is safe. I looked between them. She is. With me, she's always safe. Lauren folded her hands. We've been documenting behavior patterns. My throat closed. Excuse me. Daniel shifted in his seat. Just small things. Worrying moments. Worrying to who? I asked. Lauren kept her eyes on the teacup she wasn't drinking. Daniel's childhood was hard. You were overwhelmed. I did everything for him. I'm sure you did, she said quickly. But even loving actions can be unpredictable. I turned to Daniel. You're letting her say this? He wouldn't look at me. Do you believe I hurt your daughter? He opened his mouth, closed it. I don't know what to believe, he said. That's when something cracked. Not loud, just inside. I pushed the photo album toward him, the one I kept by the couch. Look, pictures, school plays, vacations. I was there, Daniel. I raised you alone. Lauren placed her hand gently over his. He didn't pull away. The air felt thick. I wanted to scream, or cry, or leave my own home. Instead, I said, she's turning you against me. No, Lauren said sweetly. We just want peace. I laughed, bitter. You call this peace? Daniel stood. We should go, he said. Daniel, I whispered. I'm your mother. He picked up his coat. I never hurt her, I said again. You know that. He turned halfway. Didn't meet my eyes. Take care of yourself, Mom. And just like that, they were gone. The front door clicked softly behind them. No slam. Just quiet. Too quiet. I sat at the table, staring at the untouched tea. Their cups still full. The lemon cookies dried out at the edges. They left me there, like I was something to be managed. A story they didn't want in their new chapter. I poured the tea down the sink, and watched it swirl down slowly, like something being erased. That phrase, documenting behavior patterns, kept echoing long after they were gone. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, too formal to be anything kind. I opened it with the same hands that once buttoned Daniel's school uniform. Notice of no contact request. From Daniel Monroe and Lauren Monroe. My eyes skipped. Unwelcome behavior. Emotional distress. No further communication, including visits, gifts, or uninvited appearances. My mouth went dry. I read it again. And again. The words blurred, but that header burned. I didn't cry. Not at first. I just stood in the hallway for a long time, holding the letter against my chest like a shield. I took it outside. The garden always helped. I sat in the dirt, right between the roses and the tomato bed. My knees ached. I grabbed Daniel's old baby blanket from the shed. I kept it there in a plastic tub marked keepsakes. The blanket was soft and worn thin at the edges. Yellow. Little ducks embroidered in the corners. I held it to my face. Then I cracked. Big ugly sobs. The kind I didn't know I had left. Donna? Clara's voice floated over the fence. She stepped into my yard without waiting for permission. She'd always done that. I saw you from the window. I couldn't speak. Just held the blanket tighter. She sat beside me in the grass. Didn't ask. Just sat. Then softly, I saw Lauren. At the law office on Pine Street. 2 weeks ago. I blinked. What? She was alone. Walked in with a folder. I only remembered because she wore white in the rain. Looked like a ghost. I stared at the dirt. So they planned this. Clara didn't say anything. Inside, I put the letter on the table, next to the bowl of oranges I hadn't touched all week. I looked around the house. The photos, the blanket on the couch, the painting Daniel made in 3rd grade that still hung crooked. And I thought, if I disappear tomorrow, what proof would there be that I ever mattered to him? That's when I found an old notebook. Brown leather, frayed at the spine. I wrote on the first page. I was a good mother. I started with the small things. Daniel was afraid of the vacuum. I used to hum loud enough to drown it out. Daniel wanted to be a fireman, then an astronaut, then a vet. I let him quit soccer because the coach yelled too much. Every line, a thread back to the boy I raised. I wrote until my hand cramped. Then I wrote more. The next morning, I wrote again. Daniel made me a macaroni necklace in 2nd grade. I wore it to the grocery store. I stayed up 3 nights making his dinosaur costume. He once told me, You're my favorite person. The house stayed quiet. Not even a knock. Not even a text. A week later, I got another envelope. Different lawyer. Same tone. Confirming legal delivery. Potential court appearance pending. I sat down. Real slow. I called Daniel. Voicemail. I didn't leave a message. What was there to say that hadn't already been twisted? That night I made tea. Sat by the window with my journal. The moon looked tired. I wrote. I never hit her. I never raised my voice. I only ever showed up. Then I circled one sentence over and over. They are erasing me. The next morning, I started gathering things. Birth certificates. Report cards. Art projects. Photos. I organized them in folders. Labeled each one. Age 1 to 5. Elementary school. Middle school. I made a new journal. This one just for facts. Not feelings. I used dates. Locations. Witnesses. If they were building a case, so was I. I even called my old friend Judy, who used to babysit Daniel when I worked night shifts. Do you remember the summer of '03? I asked. You mean when Daniel wouldn't stop making worm hotels in your flower beds? I smiled just a little. Would you write that down? If I sent you a page? Of course, she said. Donna, what's going on? Just write it the way you remember. Please. I hung up. My hands were still shaking. But something had shifted. This wasn't just sadness now. It was survival. They wanted me erased. But I would leave a trail. They'd have to bury every memory to get rid of me. It was the balloons that did it. Pink, yellow, and blue ones tied to the fence. I painted myself the summer Daniel bought that house. I stared at the photo on my screen. Lauren holding the cake, Daniel cutting it. My granddaughter in the middle, wearing a little crown and laughing so hard her eyes were closed. 4 years old. I hadn't even known the date had passed. There were more photos. One of the backyard table, my old wooden bench pushed underneath it, the one I gave them when they said they didn't have enough seating for guests. Another of Daniel's old teddy bear, the one I'd sewn the arm back onto 3 times. It sat next to the presents. No sign of me. Not even a mention. Then I saw the comment. Where's Daniel's mom? And Lauren's reply, sitting right beneath it like a slap to the face. Some people are better kept away. I didn't cry. I just sat there, staring at those words, letting them settle into my chest like cement. I reread it 10 times. Maybe more. Better kept away. Better. As if keeping me away made everything cleaner. I opened my email. Typed and deleted the subject line 3 times. Finally wrote. I saw the photos. Why wasn't I invited? I hesitated. Then added. Please don't do this. She's my granddaughter. He responded an hour later. No greeting. No mom. Just. This communication is unwanted. You've caused harm in the past. Please respect our boundaries and do not contact us again. I stared at the screen. Read it out loud like maybe hearing it would make it make sense. Harm. I whispered. What harm? I sat with that email for a long time. Long enough for the tea beside me to go cold. Long enough for the daylight to leave. I pulled out the journal. The one I'd started after the letter. I flipped through the pages. The lists. The memories. The drawings Daniel made in 2nd grade that I kept taped to the back. None of it mattered now. To them, I was already gone. I held up my phone. Took a photo of that Facebook comment. Then another. Of the email. Then I printed them both and stapled them to the last page of the journal. Clara came by 2 days later. Knocked twice before letting herself in. Did you see it? I asked. She hesitated. Then nodded. You weren't supposed to, she said gently. I think Lauren didn't check her privacy settings. I'm glad I did, I said. Clara sat down across from me. What are you going to do? I didn't answer right away. Then I said, I'm going to the hearing. She blinked. The court thing. I nodded. Donna, they don't want you there. I don't care. What if it makes it worse? I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. It's already worse. The night before the hearing, I pulled out a photo album from the closet. Inside, Daniel's birth certificate, his hospital bracelet, the card from the nurse that said, "He has your eyes." I tucked the album into my purse. Then I added a folded note. I was never perfect, but I never stopped showing up. The next morning, I got dressed slowly. Navy blouse. The one Daniel used to say made me look fancy. I stared at myself in the mirror. The lines around my mouth were deeper, the gray in my hair louder. But my hands still looked like the ones that had held him through fevers, through nightmares, through everything. I got to the courthouse early, sat 2 rows behind the defense table. Lauren walked in first. She glanced at me, didn't blink. Daniel followed, in a stiff suit, looking older than he should. He looked straight ahead, not once at me. My fingers rested on the edge of my purse, the album inside. I didn't take it out. Not yet. I kept thinking, let them say it out loud. Let them tell the court what I really was. And let them see what I've saved. I wasn't there to fight. I was there to be seen. If they were going to erase me, they'd have to do it to my face. I ironed my navy blouse twice. Wiped my shoes even though it had rained the night before. I placed the 3 photos in a small folder. Daniel in his dinosaur Halloween costume, Daniel with his 2 missing front teeth, and Daniel asleep on my chest, maybe 4 years old, his thumb in his mouth. I held that one a little longer, just in case today needed reminding. The courthouse lobby smelled sharp, lemon and something sterile. Like no one here had ever been hugged properly. I checked in. The woman behind the desk barely looked up. I found my seat in the 2nd row, left side. Daniel was already at the front. Lauren beside him in beige, her hair twisted perfectly. She glanced at me. No nod. No flicker. Her eyes moved over me like I was part of the wall. The judge came in. Everyone stood. The suit Daniel wore looked too tight in the shoulders. I remembered when I used to hem his pant legs myself. Just a bit of growing room in the bottom. He didn't turn around. Today's hearing is for Monroe versus Spencer, the clerk said. Not Daniel Monroe, just Monroe. Not Donna Spencer, mother of the plaintiff. Just Spencer. The lawyer spoke first. A woman in a navy pantsuit with thin glasses and a gold pen. Will be establishing the origin and nature of the financial distress as it relates to emotional interference and breach of informal support expectations. Whatever that meant. I held the folder a little tighter. My hands felt stiff. Daniel was called to speak. He stood slowly, one hand grazing the edge of the table. The lawyer asked him to explain how certain relationships had affected his financial decisions. He cleared his throat. For years, he began, I felt obligated to provide emotional and logistical support to someone who consistently destabilized my life. My stomach dropped. Was he talking about Lauren's mother again? Or his old boss? The lawyer asked. And who was that person? Daniel turned. Pointed. Right at me. That woman, he said. She ruined my life. Not my mother. Not even Donna. Just that woman. I didn't move. Didn't blink. My jaw locked so tight it ached. The room went still for a second. The kind of stillness that only happens when someone bleeds without screaming. The judge didn't react. No one turned around. I wasn't named. I wasn't anything. The lawyer continued. Can you give examples? Daniel nodded. Constant uninvited visits. Emotional manipulation. Undermining my role as a father. Boundary violations. Disregard for Lauren's needs. He said it all like a checklist. I wanted to raise my hand and say, I brought cookies. I brought diapers. I stayed silent when she closed the door in my face. Instead, I sat with the photos in my lap. The one with his missing tooth was on top. He used to smile so big you could see his whole heart. Lauren crossed her legs. Her heel bounced slightly. Her hands rested in her lap, fingers interlaced like a proper lady in a painting. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. I leaned forward, whispered barely, "Daniel." His head didn't move. The lawyer said, "How did this affect your financial stability?" Daniel said, "I spent money on therapy, legal consultations, even home security, because of the stress, the fear." I flinched. Fear? Of me? The judge asked a question. I didn't catch it. Everything sounded underwater. Lauren finally spoke. She used that voice, the one she always saved for other people. Calm, kind. We did everything we could to keep communication open. But the behavior patterns were escalating. For the safety of our child, we had no choice. She picked up a folder, handed it to the court officer. Inside I knew were emails, screen grabs, maybe even the letter they sent me, but not one photo, not one memory, not one single thing that proved I ever mattered. My hand drifted to my own folder. I almost stood, almost said, "Here, look at these. Look at the boy I loved." But the folder felt heavier now, not because of the paper, because I knew no one in that room would care. The judge scribbled something. Daniel sat back down. Lauren adjusted his collar. He let her. My body buzzed with heat under my skin. I pressed the photos tighter to my chest, like armor. But they felt flimsy now, too small to fight with. I stayed through the rest of the hearing. Didn't say a word. Didn't cry. Didn't leave until everyone else had gone. Outside, I stood in the sunlight and stared at the brick wall across the street. My folder still clutched in my hands. I whispered to no one, "You forgot who gave you everything." And he called me that woman. My shoes made no sound on the sidewalk. Everything felt too quiet. Even the cars passing by seemed like they were holding their breath. I held my purse against my chest like it was breakable. The courthouse doors closed behind me, but I still felt the sting of his voice. That woman ruined my life. I walked slowly, like each step might shatter something. Like maybe if I moved too fast, the world would crack. I reached the parking lot. 4th row, middle space. Same spot I'd always parked when I came to Daniel's school plays. Back when he used to wave at me from the stage. I unlocked the door and slid into the driver's seat. I didn't start the engine. Just sat there, hands gripping the steering wheel. Like I was waiting for someone to come knock on the window and say, "It's okay. He didn't mean it. You can come back inside now." No one came. I opened my purse. The photo folder was still inside. Daniel with frosting on his nose. Daniel dressed as a robot made of cardboard. Daniel on my lap, asleep, hand on my chest like I was the only safe thing in the world. I stared at the photos. Why did I bring these? I whispered. As if love was something you could prove. As if memory counted in a room full of lawyers. I closed the folder and rested it on the passenger seat. The sun had started to dip. Orange light streaked across the windshield. It made everything look too warm, too gentle for what had just happened. My phone buzzed. Clara, one missed call. I waited a second, then dialed her back. She picked up quick. "Hey, are you okay?" I didn't answer right away. "I heard what happened," she said softly. "I sat there, Clara," I said. Sat there while my son pointed at me like I was poison. She didn't say anything, just breathed. I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. I thought maybe bringing the photos would remind him. She let out a slow sigh. "Some sons," she finally said, "lose themselves in their wives." I stared out at the tree in front of my car. The leaves barely moved. "Do you think that's what happened?" I asked. "I think Lauren's been trying to disappear you for a long time." I closed my eyes. What if she didn't have to try that hard? I whispered. She was quiet again. "Donna, what if I was too much?" I said. "Too involved? Too protective? Too everything? You were his mother. That doesn't mean I was good at it." "Don't do that," she said. "I keep thinking," I whispered. "Maybe he's telling the truth." "Stop. Maybe I made him feel trapped. Maybe I needed him too much. Donna, maybe I gave so much he couldn't breathe. She went silent. Then she said, "He used to call you every Sunday." I nodded even though she couldn't see me. "You were his whole world once. That doesn't just vanish." "No," I said. "But maybe it changes. Maybe someone rewrites it. Makes it small. Makes it shameful." "You don't sound like you believe that." "I don't know what I believe anymore." The silence on the phone felt softer now. "I think I need to stop hoping," I finally said. Clara exhaled. "I think I need to start believing what he shows me." She didn't argue. And that, somehow, hurt more than if she had. "I brought his baby pictures, Clara," I said. My voice cracked. "And he called me that woman." "I know." We sat in the quiet again. Finally, she asked, "Do you want me to come over?" "No," I said. "I'm just going to sit here a while." I hung up. Watched as two sparrows hopped along the sidewalk beside my car. I turned to the passenger seat. Picked up the photo folder again. Ran my hand along the cover. I thought of the version of Daniel who made me macaroni necklaces. Who kissed my cheek before bed. Who once told me I was his bestest person. I whispered, "Where did you go?" No answer. Just the hum of the world moving on without me. And maybe the hardest part was knowing I had raised the man who erased me. I stopped checking Lauren's Facebook 2 weeks ago. Not by accident. I opened the app, hovered over her name and clicked unfollow. My hand shook, but my chest didn't. It was the first time in months I'd made a choice that felt like mine. That same night, I sat on the floor of the spare room and pulled out Daniel's old things. The finger paintings. The soccer trophy with the chipped base. His baby blanket, the one he used to drag behind him like a cape. I folded everything carefully and placed it into 3 cardboard boxes. No tears. No goodbye letters. Just a label written in black marker. For later, if ever. The next morning, I walked into the library and signed up to volunteer. The woman behind the desk looked surprised. I told her I just wanted to be useful again. She handed me a clipboard. "We're short on story time readers." "I used to be good at that," I said. And for the first time in a long while, I meant it. That's where I met Agnes. She was shelving paperbacks in the mystery section. Silver hair, straight back, wore 2 pairs of glasses around her neck like necklaces. She looked up and said, "You're new." I smiled. "First day. I've been coming here since the first Bush was in office. You'll get used to the silence." "I think I already have." She nodded, as if that sentence told her everything. We didn't talk much about our families. But one afternoon she said, "My son lives in Arizona. His wife sends a Christmas card every other year. Sometimes she remembers to sign his name." I didn't say anything. Just handed her the box of returned books. That was enough. One evening, I stopped by the grocery store after my shift. Frozen peas. Apples. Oatmeal. Simple things. In aisle 4 near the canned goods I saw her. A woman about my age, holding a jar of pasta sauce, standing between 2 teenagers. They were arguing about brands. One of them grabbed her cart. The other rolled her eyes. She didn't say a word. Just stood there, small between them. I watched the way she held her purse with both hands. Like she needed something to anchor herself. I felt my mouth open, like I might say something. Be kind to her, maybe. Or, she won't be here forever. But the words never came. Instead, when she looked up, I smiled. A real one. She blinked, surprised. Then gave a small nod. I walked past her without saying a word. In the parking lot, I sat in the car for a moment. Watched the sky turn the soft kind of gray that only comes right before the first fall rain. The trunk was full of groceries. The front seat held nothing but my reusable bags. No photo folders. No printed emails. No journals full of old memories. Just me. Clara called that evening. "How was your day?" "I met a woman who wore 2 pairs of glasses at once," I said. She laughed. "Was she sweet? Sharper than she looks." "But yes." Clara paused, then asked, "Have you heard anything from him?" "No." You gonna write again? No. You okay with that? I looked down at my tea. Yes, I said. I think I am. I went to bed early that night. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't dream of Daniel as a little boy. I didn't dream at all. The next morning, I opened my notebook. The one I had started to defend myself. To remember everything. I flipped to a blank page. Wrote only one sentence. I was more than just his mother. Then I closed the cover. They took the role from me, but I'm the one who set it down. I found the photo in a drawer I hadn't opened in years. It was Daniel. Barely 2. He was asleep in my lap, mouth open, one hand curled under his cheek. His cheek rested right above my heart. I looked so tired in the picture. Hair messy, eyes half closed, but peaceful. Like I knew even in that moment that he was safe. I ran my fingers along the edges of the Polaroid. It had started to yellow. The corner was bent. But it hadn't lost what it meant. I sat at the kitchen table and wrote a note on lined paper. It wasn't long. You slept in my lap that entire afternoon. The world could have fallen down, and I wouldn't have moved. Happy 35th birthday, Daniel. Wherever you are, I hope you're warm. I hope you're held. I folded the paper in thirds. Slipped it behind the photo. Taped the edges. Wrote his name on the envelope. Daniel. Just that. No address. No stamp. I stared at it for a long time. Picked it up. Put it down. Picked it up again. My hands didn't shake this time. Not like before. Not like when I used to think love had to be proven, or mailed, or delivered on time. I didn't send it. I walked to the spare room, where the boxes sat, labeled and sealed. I opened the one marked for later. Tucked the envelope under the baby blanket. Closed the box gently. Some things aren't meant to be returned. The house was quiet. I made myself tea and sat by the window. It had started to rain. Not loud. Just the kind that taps like it's asking to be let in. My phone buzzed once. A weather alert. Nothing personal. No birthdays. No messages. But I didn't flinch this year. I didn't check the mailbox every 10 minutes, hoping for a card. Daniel's birthday came and went. Just like every day since the courthouse. Except this one had softness. Not because he called, but because I didn't beg for it. I spent the afternoon at the library with Agnes. She handed me a stack of children's books and said, "They like the noisy ones best." I read 3 in a row. A little girl in the front row leaned her head on my knee by the end. Afterward, Agnes said, "You have the kind of voice they listen to." I smiled. Used to be someone's favorite sound. She didn't ask who. Just patted my hand. That evening, I watched the clouds drift across the sky like they had nowhere to be. I whispered into the empty room. I did love you. I still do. Not as a question. Not as a plea. Just as a fact. I thought about his daughter. The one I'd only seen in pictures. If she ever comes looking, there will be stories waiting. Boxes. Letters. Photos. A trail. One day maybe she'll knock on my door and ask, what was he like when he was little? And I'll tell her that he was loud, that he hated peas, that he made up songs about our dog, that he used to say, "When I grow up, I'll take care of you." And I'll show her the photo, the one I never sent, because even if he forgot, I never will.